flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we have a full house, all members present. I want to thank the town manager for getting the agenda out, and also all of the hard work. And I think since our last meeting, you've made tremendous progress on sharing all the materials and assembling them. And so if we look at the agenda, we'll do a quick agenda review. We're going to do an overview of everything, which is what we discussed last meeting. Then by fund, general fund, highway, and solid waste. Then you've got a capital plan discussion that Mr. Gomes will go through us. Any other business, and then adjourn. So any feedback on the agenda, any changes? Yep.
Would it be prudent to do the highway and emergency first, so Ray and Mr. Compton put it on?
I think that's a great idea. Or is everyone
I
acceptable?
think I need to be here for the solid waste as well.
Yeah, they're a part of the general fund, so my plan is to present the general fund as full.
Okay,
Whereas highway is a separate fund, so typically they go in the older general fund, highway fund, solid waste fund. And Grace and actually Josh are a part of both. Grace is part of the highway fund and solid waste fund and the capital fund. So I don't think he's gonna be into this.
No early out for you.
And then
Quality time.
similar to Josh, I'd like the chief to be here because we'll be discussing the fire truck capital plan. Okay,
okay.
So, any other agenda questions? Okay, one thing I want to mention is I'm looking at the agenda, here's what I'm thinking, and I'd like your thoughts. I think we can do the review of minutes and the overview like in the first half hour, just in terms of looking, I'd like this to finish in 2 hours tonight and not go over if possible. And that would give us about an hour to go through the general fund, the highway fund, the solid waste, and that would also leave us with a half hour for capital plan discussion, any other business. And then I also want to make sure if anyone's zooming in or we have guests, members of the public, they have the ability to ask questions too. So I'm thinking 2 hours. Brandon, is that, you think that's feasible?
Yeah, and as far as my part goes, I'm gonna give a general overview. I sent the materials earlier, so if there's any questions, I can take them. But my plan is not to go into a lot of detail unless requested.
And then I think the other thing, just to set the stage, I believe you pulled the capital plan out of the budgets, and then you'll be discussing your thoughts on how you see that happening.
Yep.
Okay. So okay, so the agenda is good, we have unanimous consent. And then we'll go into minutes. I'll give everyone just a moment. If you recall at our last meeting, we did our organization duties. And we really didn't, the motions that we made were really setting meetings, and then we had to cancel one meeting because there's a schedule conflict. We stuck with today's meeting. And I'll give everyone a minute to review them, but I think they're fairly straightforward. We discussed the year's overview. I think you had highway last month. Yeah, when we met, and then our last meeting, and then most of these others were conceptual at that point. So I'll pause for a second, let you guys read through, and then see if there's any changes.
As a note, I did take a pass earlier this afternoon and made some formatting changes to the first. I just looked at it for corrections, and numbers 2, 3, and 4 were all like phrased slightly differently. So I changed it so they'd be the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no concerns. But I'll maybe check with each member that comes in.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for December 1st, 2025 with corrections as necessary.
Okay, Joe has made a motion to approve. We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. All right, we've got the number 2, move on to number 3. And Mr. Demolik, I'll turn it over to you for the overview.
Yeah, so overall, the budget came in much better than expected. When I initially went into this budget, I was a little nervous, but we were able to negotiate various contracts, and purchase supplies and so forth at different places to really bring the numbers down. If you look at the projections to year end, we've completed projections from November, from December first until June 30th. And that's what you'll see in that second column there, so the FY 26 budget for revenues was 1,972,000, and we're projected to receive 1,981,000. Or 8,350 more in revenue than we anticipated. On the expense side of the general fund, we budgeted 1,972,000 for expenses, and we're projected to come in at 1,944,000. So year-end net for the general fund is $36,473. As far as the FY 27 budget is concerned, the budget is, we're proposing an increase of 4.15%. Last year it was 1,972,000. We're proposing a $81,938 increase. On the highway revenue side, highway revenues were budgeted at 1,283,000. We're projected to receive 1,298,000, or $15,000 more than anticipated. On the expense side, we budgeted 1,283,000, and we're projected to spend 1,240,000. So there's a $43,000 difference in the positive there, for a net year end. And the highway fund of $58,893. I do want to say that although we're projecting a net positive right now, we are going over on our repairs budget. If you want more detail on that, I can turn it over to Ray in a few minutes and we can discuss what we're looking at on the repairs for trucks. On the solid waste side, we budgeted 412,000 overall in fixed and variable revenues. I'm projecting that we will receive less than that in revenues at year end. And that will land somewhere in the neighborhood of 375,000 or $37,000 short on what we budgeted. On the solid waste expense side, we budgeted 412,000. I'm projecting an expenditure of 433,000. We're projecting a year-end deficit in general, in the solid waste fund of $58,526. For the FY 27 budget in solid waste, we're proposing an increase of 8.05%. But again, last year it was, or this year it's 412,000. We're proposing 445,000, or $33,000 difference. The main changes in our budget this year on the revenue side in the general fund, direct your attention to the land use budget. You'll see that in FY 26,
Okay, land use, probably where I'm at, so still on the,
yeah, so right on the top on the summary sheet.
under land use, so it's about, okay, we're
Yeah.
8 down from the very top.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm gonna stay on this overview sheet, and then if we want to get into more detail, we can flip into the actual budgets. So if you notice there, we budgeted $47,000 in revenues, and we received $7,774 in revenue, with a $39,000 difference. When we went into FY 26, we had an agreement with Windsor and Rockingham. We were sharing 2 land use personnel. One of the land use personnel was not working out, so I told Weathersfield out of that agreement. And then we were in agreement with Weathersfield and Rockingham. We needed more land use time, as many of us know. So we took on the land use administrator full time. And then we lost the revenue that was coming in from Rockingham. The way that I offset that throughout the year, because we're not landing in a deficit in the general fund, is we had 1 employee leave, and I did not fill that position. And then we hired Stephanie as to do all of the recordings for our minutes. we had someone 8 hours, Juliet Gumbart, that comes in and helps out front. So that's how we offset it. We took on a full-time land use administrator, who's not hiring another full-time principal clerk. And another major change is the use of fund balance. So in this budget, I did apply $60,000 in cumulative fund balance, 50,000 in the administration budget, and 10,000 in fire and emergency services. And the reason I did that is to raise the overall impact of the tax need. So we applied 60,000 there to reduce the tax need. On the highway fund side, we did a similar expenditure for cumulative fund balance, and the amount will be. Yeah, over here.
42 and change.
Yeah, 42,000.
670-ish for something.
So $44,058 we applied in cumulative highway department fund balance. We have our FY 24 audited fund balance. I did an internal audit of our FY 25 accounts, and what I came up with was 74,058 cumulative highway department fund balance. I think we typically hold $30,000 in cumulative fund balance as a contingency. So that's where that $44,000 number came from. I'm still completing more analysis on our cumulative fund balance in the general fund, because I want to make sure that I get it right. I'm pretty close. There's a few things that I'm still researching. I believe we're around 170,000
Okay, for the general
in the general fund.
and that's after you took 50,000 for administrative and 20,000 for land use? Or is that?
10,000 for fire, so 60 will come out of the 170, 180. It'll be left with 120, and then from that 120, we purchased a ladder truck as well from fund balance earlier in the year. So 12,000 will reduce from that, and then there's some more reconciliations that I have to do to come up with the exact number. I'm comfortable with the 60,000, and then my plan is to propose.
Wait, I'm sorry, you lost me.
Yeah.
So the fund balance is 170. You're trying.
Very, very, very rough number.
Okay, I got that, yeah, and so you're gonna transfer 60,000,
Yep,
and then you said the balance after that.
so it'll be 110, and then we, earlier in the year, the select board, I proposed to the select board, and the select board approved the purchase of the ladder truck from the Scottney Fire Association.
Right,
So 12,000 comes out of there, and then deduct the $30,000 contingency, and then reconciling the rest of it. Any increases would further come out of that cumulative fund balance, and then I'll have our remaining number. And that remaining number will be presented to the board of market.
okay, because we talked about this last year, and we talked about what is a reasonable amount to keep as
Yep,
a reserve fund, and I thought I remembered it was about 100,000.
so we have a rainy day
of
fund
yeah.
of 104,000.
Mhm.
Cumulative fund balance. is
Right,
a
that's
little-
the rainy day, right, okay.
Yes, it's a little different than the rainy day fund. In the sense that it accumulates the more years we land in the green.
Gotcha, okay,
So like if, let's say this year, the projection in the general fund is, we're gonna land in the green 36,000. Let's say we held a contingency in the general fund of 50,000. Next year, our cumulative fund balance would be 80,000. If 86,000, so, that's how cumulative fund balance works. And we've taxed the taxpayer on that money, so we usually apply as much as we can to the next year's tax need through the use of fund balance. And what I'm proposing is, once I have a reconciled number, which I should have tomorrow, reducing the 30,000 and any other numbers that will come out of cumulative fund balance. Any remainder beyond that, I would propose to use it to brace the impact of the capital plan approved.
Mhm. Yeah, because you still have your rainy day.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Actually, two more questions.
So that's all I got.
That makes sense.
And that covers the overview, the general fund, the highway fund, and the solid waste fund. So if anybody has any more detailed questions,
I just have one more question. You explained land use adjustment because you added an assistant and then. It
Yep.
said in the line item that you eliminated the recording secretary, but that's not really, I think I'm just maybe,
so what I did
we
there-
still have a recording secretary, right, for land use?
So what we did is we hired one employee to do all the minutes, and that's Stephanie. And she's-
Right,
She's
okay.
right there. And she is in the administration budget. So if
Okay.
you turn over, the page 2, the admin budget. You'll see
She's
town
in there.
manager, HR, principal clerk, and then you'll see executive secretary.
Okay, thank you. And my other question was, just curious about this, all the charities, mostly charities were eliminated. Is that because they didn't apply or they're just eliminating
So going to the last
them? I
page,
especially noticed the visiting nurses.
Well, those will be the special articles, that the select board votes on, right? So the select
Yeah.
board will, I think there were 11
Uh-huh.
last go around when we did this, and I think,
Yeah.
well, actually.
No, they were in the budget.
Wait, they were 2 year,
Yeah.
right, like,
Yeah.
so they're. If they're,
They're-
yeah, so
so
they're,
if you go to the last
Okay,
page on the last. Yeah,
3 pages.
one by your 3 pages to the back. If you look at this sheet.
oh,
here,
now they're in here, okay.
You see the town meeting warning?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have this ahead of time.
It's okay. I was working on this all the way up.
I bet you were, yeah,
So,
yeah, okay,
so there's a town meeting annual warning, and then in it, you'll see Article 6 is. Is everybody there?
yep, Article 6,
Article 6 is the general fund. Article 7 is the highway fund. Article 8 is the solid waste fund. Article 9 is the conservation commission's request to leave their net. Whatever they have left at the end of the year, they'd like to move that into their reserve account. Article 10 is the highway motorized equipment reserve capital plan. Article 11 is the fire apparatus capital fund. Article 12 is the technology, the development of a new reserve fund for technology.
okay,
Article 13 is the appropriation into that reserve fund. Article 14 is the Parks and Recreation Commission reserve fund appropriation request. Article 15 is $10,000 to be deposited in the highway capital maintenance and improvements for the future replacement of the Bowen Hill culvert. And then we're going to start to see the 501c3 appropriations. Article 16 is HCRS. Article 17 is SEPTA. Article 18 is Vermont Association of the Blind. Article 19 are visiting nurses. And then Article 20 is Vermont Family Network. Article 21 is RISE, the Association of Women's Frequency Services. And then Article 22 is SAP.
visiting nurses. Last year, was that a special article that was approved?
I believe
Because
that it was.
Was it
No,
approved?
it wasn't.
it was not.
who's in the budget?
And that's why they're in as a special article this year. So it was in the, what happens is, per the policy, once a 501c3 special appropriation is approved at town meeting, it gets approved for 2 years. So the next year it just goes in the budget, and then the next year, it's back up at the special appropriation.
I have a real big question on Article 19 is now to. Or these.
Yeah.
So visiting nurses. So there's a misnomer here, because is it the visiting nurses of Southern New Hampshire, Vermont? Which visiting nurses is it, or is it a brand new, it doesn't list a 501c3, it doesn't list the name of the organization. And there's been an effort afoot to create monies for visiting nurses, legislatively. And so I just want, we do need granularity on articles that
Yes.
voters are gonna vote on. Yeah,
And they
what
did
is the
submit-
organization, does it service Weathersfield residents?
Yeah.
Is it, yeah.
So we will provide all of the special appropriation requests in the select board packet on this meeting. And then it goes into more detail on those.
Yeah, that's a huge, I believe last year when we did budget, I believe there were 11 organizations that were 501c3s, and I think the total amount was something like 23,000. That's from memory. And I think many of them were good for 2 years, right?
Yep, it was $23,056.
Okay. And so that's where the granularity for the select board for the voters is who is receiving it? Are they nonprofit? Does it service Weathersfield?
Yep.
And is that enough in the budget for the next 2 years?
Okay.
That's a question I would have. And then to the other thing, I think the select board can approve. Is there cap 500 or 600 that they can vote on just to go ahead and approve a
Up to 500.
up to 500?
Anything over 500 goes on that special article.
Okay. So, and that's where with 22 articles, this is just a thought, really, it's not a recommendation or a motion, but just a thought is. If someone's requesting 500, I think if they requested 499 and the select board felt that it was worthy, they could make a decision right then and there. You have a lot of articles here for voters to digest.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. And that's what happens every 2 years when these come back up for a special article. We end up with, and you have to draw the line somewhere. And I think that's why the board at the time drew $500 as the line to where it also was right. And then we go into a special article.
I did attend a meeting in Perkinsville that was related to visiting nurses, vision and the services they provide, and what visiting nurses do versus what they don't do. And of the 11 organizations, many of them, it seemed to me like 7 or 8 of them is providing related services for those populations. And so I'm just sharing that with you because 12,000 is a fairly large amount of money, for nonprofit task. I'm just sharing that with the rest of the group. There might be some questions that help get some. We have
This may not be the right time, so forgive me.
oh, that's great.
Article 22 is not set for TV, at least not on this one. And the question is, what's the difference between Article 22 and Article 11? They're both fire apparatus. If we're fund request. Set for TV is.
You know what I did? I just put this together and
This typo.
Like
It's
2 minutes ago.
Oh, the 5,000
Yeah.
is SAPA, not fire.
good
apparatus.
catch before it's so shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield, and I copied pasted and got a phone call and anyways, so shall the voters of the town of Weathersfield raise and appropriate so 5,000 SAPA TV.
For SAPA.
Very cheap. Here goes your 5K.
That's what I was gonna bank on
So
that.
that's helpful, thank you for us. So I guess, and I'd really like to, this is my thought, and I don't want to ask for the comment from the rest of the committee. I think in the special articles. It's gonna be a long town meeting and difficult for the voters to digest so many articles. I think there's routine articles, which are the budget, budget categories, right? And then there's the capital plan articles, which we're introducing. Rolling out, and then there's the unfunded requests from community organizations. And it seems like those are kind of 3 categories. And so I think that anything that can be done to reduce the number of articles makes it more understandable from the voter standpoint. And then I also think that my second thought is this. With those nonprofits and community organizations, for people to know what they're voting for, they kind of need to know it's already being funded. Because this is starting, it can get big. And you're asking them to fund a lot of essential services, highway, fire, law enforcement type things, city or town services. But then all of these, the nonprofits and the community organizations, the voters need to understand that we're already funding, I think, 11 or some odd. So I don't know the best way to communicate that, but that's my thoughts, and I wanted to share it to the rest of the committee, and you share those thoughts.
I agree 100%. Is, once you're paying this from last year, it's already in there, and they have a breakdown, show them what they're paying for, and now we're looking for, other funds to fund other things, rather than get beat up with, you get all this extra money coming out that you forgot about from last year.
Yeah,
So adds up at the end.
it does.
The thing I see when I look at this is a lot of the nonprofits are just, asking for 1,500, 750, 500. But, the two large ones that are looking for thousands, have we ever considered putting a cap on the amount that they can ask for? So you could still ask, but not come at us with $15,000 out of nowhere. Because that's a whole line item in the budget at that point.
I don't think a cap exists, but the select board can deliberate and receive public comment. And so like an example would be, we hear Sapa did a presentation, right? And then, and then the public provides comment, the select board deliberates. They can vote whether or not to include it as a special article, correct?
Yes, and that's what they'll be doing at their next meeting on Monday, and potentially at the following meeting. They may ask for more information, or they may decide, hey, Article 22 for Sapa TV, the $5,000 request may just be too much, or maybe the service is needed anymore. Stuff like that, I expect them to be.
And so here's and I'm just gonna give you a time check right now. We're about half an hour into the meeting, so it's just a good time. So the dynamics of what happens Monday, providing public comment is really important, and understanding what our budget increase is going to be, and then understanding what the capital plan increases are going to be. What are we voting on? What are we voting on for a budget? Would you say 4 point something percent right now? Chris?
Overall,
3.91.
yeah,
0.91. Okay, so 3.91 is actually pretty digestible, in the grand picture things. But if we vote for all of the capital plans, what is that increase change to?
so my proposal, just kind of moving ahead to the capital fund discussion, and we can go back to the general fund. I had a meeting with town council, so I wanted to make sure that we're doing the capital plan right. There's certain legal requirements that need to be met before we can go forward with the capital plan. So on Monday, I'm proposing that the select board warn a public hearing, which is required before the capital plan can be adopted. And we would warn that public hearing for the first meeting in January. The board would open the public hearing, a presentation would be given describing each capital plan. We have one for highway, one for fire, one for technology, and each of those would be explained. And within that explanation, we would explain how much taxes would increase. And then cumulatively, all three were approved. What would the tax increase look like? What would that look like for 100,000 of property value? What would that look like to the average property value in Weathersfield? So that's my plan on Monday is to propose that to the select board. And then we do our public hearing. They receive public comment. And then at the end of the meeting, they would vote on whether to approve or deny the capital plan. And then that decision is going to guide whether it goes on the town meeting warning.
Okay, so that seems to make sense. So I kind of look at it like, if you look at the big picture, for the voter, for all of us, but especially for the voter, they're going to be voting and making decisions. They're going to be voting on a budget. Many, I think, would be rather comfortable with a under 4% budget increase. They're going to have a lot of questions and concerns about the capital plan. If I vote yes on all the capital plans, is it a good thing? How does it benefit the town? Can we afford it? Can I afford that increase in my taxes? And then on a lesser scale, the stuff like the SAPA and the visiting nurses. I think the select board's gonna probably have some tough decision making on Monday, which is. Do we ask the voters to consider paying for this too? Or is this not feasible right now, because we really want to emphasize the capital plan? And then lastly, the school budget. School costs. I don't know if they voted on, I think they met last week, I don't know if they voted on it or not. But that's gonna also drive, how much are my taxes gonna go up based on the education costs? And can, so that's my thoughts.
So, my thought on this charity, since you asked for it, is I would like to see charities as a line item in the budget, and I would like the select board to decide where to send the money. As a voter, I don't feel personally it's my job to decide on something as at $500. I just. It's, I'd rather, and we're here to advise, and I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but that would be my advice, if you can legally do it, is just put it in the budget
Does the
and.
policy say under 500 or 500 and under?
500 and under, and it would require a policy change. And that
Policy change or a-
is old and outdated.
So policy could be changed,
Yeah.
and that policy needs to be updated, because I looked at that policy and I don't see. I never felt like there was verification that these charities were delivering.
Yeah.
So that would be my opinion, and I don't know if anybody else agrees, but we could make that recommendation if we all agree.
I'm all for it, because the 500 under, definitely, I would select board.
So-
With a huge budget and we're voting on $500, really?
So just to verify, the current policy, the select board can approve 500 and under.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you like to, let me restate it and then you can decide if that would be your motion.
Okay.
Would you like to move that the committee advise the select board or recommend, we can make recommendations, right?
Yeah.
To approve or disapprove those the 500 requests so that they not be special articles? That they make.
Yeah, and I would go further and
We
I
can do a couple motions.
Yeah.
One could wipe out those 2 special articles by just deferring it to the select.
I would say anything under 2,500,
Well,
honestly.
we have a
Yeah.
policy in place though.
Yep,
Just right
they
now,
gotta change that.
the legal policy changes to separate.
So say it again, sorry.
Okay, so, the motion would be, to, recommend that the select board determine the funding, per the policy of those 2 $500 requests. And remove those as articles from the ballot.
Okay, well, I'll second it just so we can discuss it.
Oh, what's your motion? I'm just,
Oh.
and maybe it's a better way to, is there a better way to phrase it? I'm welcome to ideas, but I think.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, now we go to discussion. Any other discussion on this?
I'm just not sure they can do that because their current policy says $500.
They can't.
So the motion is for this. I think I would like to make a motion that we advise the select board. Oh, wait, do we have to vote on that?
Well, we can amend it.
Okay.
You can-
I would-
unanimous consent.
I'm not good at Robert's rules.
Yeah, right.
My suggestion was more that we advise the select board to change their policy,
Okay,
to increase the dollar amount that has to go before an article to 2,500, I'll put it out there.
well, let's just to clarify, is the current policy under 500 or 500 and under?
500 and under.
And there's 2 articles that are for 500.
Yes, and I think.
Change it to 499 and they can get.
Well, if it's 500 and under,
500 under.
they can
Let
go
me
to that.
take a look at the policy real quick.
Yeah,
I have it in here.
And I might have misunderstood, but that, I thought you said 500 and under select board can do, which means it wouldn't have to be articles, they can just
it
decide.
doesn't have to be there. Good. Okay, that's 2 gone.
Hold on one sec.
But it's still, it's okay.
We're
But
in
the select board still has to decide, right? It's more work.
But
but-
you wouldn't have 2, you'd have 2 less articles for the voters to try to digest.
Yeah, it's too trivial,
Okay,
trivial, in my opinion.
request of $500 or greater.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now,
dollar,
could
always gets you.
could you inform those two nonprofits that if their requests were for 99 or less, then the select board could simply decide?
You could do that.
Okay, so,
Sorry, making more work for you.
if we have unanimous consent, we'll withdraw. Do you want to withdraw that motion? then?
Yeah.
Because we can't. Okay, so we have unanimous consent. You can withdraw the motion. It is not going forward. However, I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion. I move that we defer those two articles for $500 for the town manager to consult with the nonprofits to consider an amount less than 500 in order to not be special articles. The second, okay, any other discussion?
No,
Stephanie, did I say that too fast or?
Say it one more time for the minutes.
I move that the town manager consult with the two community organizations with $500 requests to consider a lesser amount. So that they would not have to be special articles, so it could be approved by the select board. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
And there are none opposed, motion carries. So hopefully that reduces two special articles, hopefully that helps the town get through the meeting and ballot a little more smoothly. And they could simply decide to do 499 and the select board could simply decide to approve, sure.
so wait, what happened to my motion to,
I was just gonna say this.
Now we can pick up a new motion.
okay,
Now we can pick up a new motion, because we're talking about a policy change.
Yeah, the recommendation of changing the policy amount
yeah, I would,
from 500 to 25 is what you were saying.
yeah, I would make a motion that our committee advise the select board to change their policy to $2,500 or more.
Actually, I would do 2501
Yeah.
and more.
2501
$500.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
before it has to go as a special article. Poorly worded, somebody can fix it if you want.
And I think to help, you know the name of that policy that governs the nonprofits, community organization requests?
I have
So we have a motion to recommend changes.
social services policy.
Social services
Mhm.
policy, okay. So. I would, do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, now we're going to discussion. And for discussion, the person who made the motion actually gets first crack. So is there anything else you wanted to,
No,
okay. I have anything from Joe or Chris? before I go?
No.
Not yet.
Okay, here's a thought to consider. I think this is a bigger discussion, and I think what we're recommending really should be a policy review and revision to give them time to deliberate. It'd probably be after this next town meeting and budget.
Yeah.
But I also think
Later.
that they have to look at how much money is it appropriate to, because do you want 15, 20 special articles? Do you want the amounts to grow and grow and grow? So yes, they might want to consider being able to approve larger amounts, but someone mentioned, like, do you want to have a category
yeah,
of funding that's dedicated specifically for community organizations? That, and it might be something like where we say, hey, the town of Weathersfield is gonna set aside up to 20,000 a year.
I think they need to have a category. I think it's a good idea.
We have right?
This isn't my wheelhouse, but you could do like Ben and Jerry's in a foundation. They put X amount of dollars in it and they had a committee that reviewed applicants. They
No.
gave out money up to certain amounts for grants.
Mhm.
You could do it the same way with the town. You could do a $20,000 max. The voters approve it. If it gets approved, then you have a committee that reviews applicants and gives out the money up to a certain amount,
Mhm.
like a maximum of 1,000 per applicant or whatever. Just thought.
And it could even be like the budget committee, or could it be a special ad hoc committee, but I think what we have, I think we have to have prudence, and I think we have to be a little frugal, because we've got to ensure the budget can get, processed, understood, voted on. We also, these nonprofits, they're not municipal organizations. We have no obligation to fund the operation of nonprofits. Well, what this is a town decision, whether it's the select board or a committee or the voters, it's ultimately a town's decision on how much money the town pays to community organizations. So I would propose amending it to simply, we are recommending that immediately after the next town meeting and budget vote, that the policy be reviewed and revised. If you just leave it broad like that, and then you can get into all of the nuances. This, if it's up to 2,500, like they might decide like, hey, we only want to do up to 20,000 period, because right now we're at 23, but we have what, 20,000 more requests right now. That would put us over 40,000. So I mean, I think it's a more complex discussion. And so would you consider amending your motion to recommending a policy revision of that? What's the name of that policy thing?
Social services policy. Yeah, I'm just wondering if they're gonna need a little bit more specifics, but, good. Look at that, you get specific enough.
I hear where you're coming from on a little bit more of the guidance to come with it rather, and I also understand the broad spectrum because of where this can go in all directions. I love the idea of a fund balance line item that we can work off of and did not have to have all these special articles.
Well, here's what you could do is you could say, your motion could be that the town of Weathersfield revise this policy and set a cap. And you could set a cap and a floor and a ceiling for select board approvals.
To reduce the number of articles.
To reduce the number of articles.
There you go, that's it. I feel
So-
better with that, yeah.
So we seconded it.
So is that the reducing the number of articles or reducing the amount total of the articles? So you could have 10 articles come through at $20,000 a piece, or you have a certain amount, like, are we talking numbers of the money or numbers of the articles?
I think if you had the motion as simple as, that the committee recommends the town of Weathersfield revise this policy. And, set a floor and a ceiling for select board approvals, period. Because it accomplishes all kinds of things, but when they review the policy, they can go deep into the weeds on, hey, who's gonna vote on it, hey, how much money are we gonna set in the budget for it? You know, but if you say that they're gonna set a floor and a ceiling for select board approvals, that gives them the flexibility to say, yeah, 2,500 sounds good, or they get more comment.
Yeah.
I still want to drill back to, can we just put in there, due to the concern of the number of articles that the voters have to approve, this board recommends that the select board
Yes.
review. I want to
To
state,
streamline the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Budget process. Okay, so.
because they're gonna look at it and go, what's wrong? They don't know why.
So to streamline the budget process and, streamline the budget process, the committee recommends.
To streamline, no, that's not what I said, to reduce the number of articles, special articles that the voters are. What did I say?
You originally said to be able to
Approve.
approve up to 2,500, then they got modified from that.
Yeah,
I like the floor to ceiling.
you know.
Well, we just dragged ourselves into the weeds here.
Yeah, we're going down. I had said something like, the goal is to reduce the number of special articles that the voters are faced with.
Stephanie, do you have the original motion? Were you able to capture that yet, or?
She's like, you guys are nuts.
So the motion that I'm taking notes on right now is that Beth Hunton moves the town social services policy be amended to raise the lower limit from 500 to 2,500. And then I think Joseph seconded that, but now we're in discussion on that motion and we've moved to a different.
Yeah, with the floor and the ceiling, and then.
Well, I'm flexible. Ultimately, Beth, it's your motion and.
Maybe, can I withdraw the motion and restate a new one?
Yes,
Okay, let me try again. And we have, let's get this time.
Okay, do you want a minute to jot it down?
Yeah,
Okay, so let's just take like a 1 minute pause or 2 minute pause. Everybody needs to check their phones, use the bathroom. And then we'll get back to business. But I think, we discussed this last year too, though.
we did.
We had concerns. Because I think there was, like I said, I think there were at least 11 articles.
My biggest fear is just that they keep on adding up and we're not accounting for it. And it could just really balloon into something massive.
We off break right now?
We're on break.
I think it's, me as a taxpayer, it's really confusing when you don't know how it's gonna impact your taxes, then you get a tax bill and say, well, they told us it's gonna be 3.5, and this is like 4.2. Why? And there's a lot of phone calls with Brandon James over the past, I know he has, you approved all these special articles. And
Yeah,
those added money, and I think they lose sight of that when they're spending 11 here, 25 here, 95 there.
This is an important consideration, but ultimately it's one of the purposes of this committee is to help us out with some select board, and improve the process.
okay.
There,
Due to the concern with the number of special articles that voters have approved, the committee advises the select board to review the social services policy to add a, what'd you call it,
and
bottom
set floors,
and a ceiling,
approval amount.
and to create a budget line item for social services.
Yes. Okay, so we'll resume. It's 18:48. We'll go ahead and resume. She's made that motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries forward. We got a recommendation that we'll provide to the select board. Now we'll see the select board Monday. Do you think we'll have draft minutes by Monday? Is that too soon?
She's thinking, give her a second.
Yeah,
Is there a question for me?
Yeah.
we have the select board is meeting on Monday.
Mhm.
Will we have draft minutes, do you think, by Monday?
Yeah, we can do that.
If not, Beth has that written down, so I just want to make sure we're able to provide a record.
Perhaps the board should just draft a quick note to present to the select board with our recommendation of we have the motion, but to outline our intent of what we're actually asking, because we do have 2 members here, but there are 3 others still, so we want to really make sure that we're just
Okay, I'll be
relaying
there
it.
Monday, so, and to create, I got it.
Okay, so let's get back to other business.
Budget.
Brandon, on our agenda, where would you like to go next?
That's all I had, unless anyone has any
Okay.
questions.
Good, we're done with general. Right.
Can I raise my hand?
You have the floor.
It's Rika. I was wondering whether it would make sense on the articles to, sort of have a little note attached that says, if this article passes, it will add so much to the tax rate. So people can translate that a little bit, that.
Yeah, can I speak
Yes,
to that? 'Cause we
absolutely.
talked about that last year, Rika, and why were we told we couldn't do that?
So we
Something about the legal blah, blah, blah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
do put not in budget. So it says not in
Uh-huh.
budget, does say the amount. So if the amount is approved, then that amount will go into the budget, thereby increasing the budget.
Right, but what?
Right, you understand that it
What's the
increases it, but
percentage?
it's just how big a drop is this in the whole budget?
So we cannot, the answer to your question is. We finalize our grand list for the town in April. The select board, we get our 411 and then we calculate the tax rate. And the select board approves the tax rate based on the new grand list in July of next year.
Mm-hmm.
It simply wouldn't be possible for me to calculate.
I see what you're saying.
There's another challenge too, which is with all those articles, Rika, So if they approve one or don't approve one, that percentage will change, because the budget will change.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying that if you just are approve this one article, Article 8, well, that would add, 3 cents to your tax rate. If you only approved Article 11, that would
So-
add so much. So if you approve multiple articles, you would just sort of tally up in your own head, how much am I adding to my tax bill with each of these approvals? But I mean, maybe I feel in a way I'm sticking my nose in where into your business, which maybe isn't all that appropriate, but
That's a valid question. I mean, everyone looks at the costs of this differently, every voter is looking at how it impacts them individually. Joe?
Chair, if I may. I like where you're coming from on that, Rika, but maybe instead of having every item have an amount on it, because usually most of those special articles get approved all the way through historically, just be like the special articles accumulatively equal.
And that's
Okay.
what we do in the tax rate calculation. So we have a municipal tax rate calculation, and it's estimated based on the current year's grand list. But if we actually put that in the article, then we put the amount, like the number of pennies, since that changes based on our grand list that gets completed in April.
got it.
Significantly increase that number or decrease that
So
number.
you falsely told them what.
And
Right.
we've given them false
Right.
information, we have something that's incorrect.
Okay, so
So
that's,
we do a draft tax rate calculation, which is fairly accurate, but throughout the year, the grand list changes. Usually it increases by half a cent.
Okay, yeah, I remember there was a reason why we couldn't.
The, going back to the special articles, I'll keep it short. I recall that last year, we had a special article for visiting nurses of Southern New Hampshire and Vermont, and it was approved.
Yeah,
And so from a committee standpoint, we can decide as a committee to provide a recommendation on that, to provide a recommendation on SAP, and to provide a recommendation on any of these special articles, on Monday. But we're also allowed to speak individually. Not as a whole committee, but we're allowed to speak individually. My individual personal feeling is that 5,000 for SAPA and 12,500 for the visiting nurses is excessive. And that, as nonprofits, that's their responsibility, not the town's, to pay for their activities. And those services are also available through other means. That's my personal feeling. But as a committee, it's also, we have a responsibility to have a pulse, which is, do you want to have a collective recommendation or not have a collective recommendation on those articles, other articles?
I just don't feel like I've done the research to understand any of these charities, so I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation.
I have opinions as a personal, taxpayer.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if we should collectively make a ruling as a board or a committee, but, I do feel pretty strongly about a couple of them.
So they were not in the budget last year. I mean, they were not on an article last year.
they were in the budget.
They were in the budget, but the prior year, they were on an article, which is why they were directly in the budget, because it's up for 2 years. And now they're back on the budget.
What were the budgeted amounts in the past?
12,100.
Okay.
No.
So they were in the previous year, their article was approved.
Yes.
So this is more of a renewal then.
This is a legal.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's important. See, that's important. Because, I wasn't on the budget committee 2 years ago. Okay, so, I think I guess I'll leave it like this. I think this is more of a discussion thing. I think it will be helpful for the select board and helpful for the voters to know what the articles that were funded in the last cycle and what's new this cycle. So they just have awareness.
And if it's a 2 year, I would like to know as a voter that I just wanted to pay $11,000 for 2 years, not this next year.
So-
That's about it. Enough, that's not bad.
That category of
That's what happened.
social policy. Social.
Never mind.
Social services
Yeah, I
policy.
think from an educational standpoint, you resolve a lot of fear and concerns. You're really transparent about it, and you're like, hey, this is what's been approved in the past. This is what's new this year.
There is legal language by law on what you can put for wordage in an article. You can't over influence or under influence the decision by wording it certain ways, so you have to just be careful of that.
And the language in the policy says, approved requests are valid for 2 years. Subsequent funding will require a yearly submission in compliance with our requirements of when a request for receipt approval. Working local time, and if it was a one-time goal to be arranged. So they're, once they get approved, it's a 2-year situation.
Yes, Chris, wouldn't it be nice if we could do the 2-year right now is great, but when you're giving money to charities,
Yeah,
why don't we ask for it every year? And if the select board agreed to do a floor ceiling and put a number on there, we only can give 25,000 a year in charity. And then you have a committee, whether it be the budget committee or whatever, screen them all. But every year you want that money from me, come see me and ask me for it. Tell me what you're gonna do, tell me what you've done with the money we've given you, how did you service our people here? And rather than here, that would also excuse the, as Ray had just mentioned, the, in August, not so earlier, we've spent 20, how much last year? 23,000?
23.
And that's gonna be spent this year already. That's in there.
Yeah.
Now, we're looking for another,
No, that's help of the budget.
there's 23 out,
Yes, 23 is out.
but we still have money that we approved from last year, correct? For these nonprofits.
Yeah.
That we're
Not for
paying,
these ones that are on special.
not these, but we're still paying. This year, we are paying money, or we're gonna be paying next year, money that we approved last year.
This goes back to,
Roughly 2,000.
Okay, 2,000, it could have been 20,000, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is you don't know, the voters don't know what that number is from last year, they forgot that, I did. I was here last year, I forgot. So you forgot what that is, now we're asking for $23,000, so that's really $25,000. Because there's a couple thousand dollars already.
And the past practice with the town is they go in a special article. And then at town meeting, they have their separate presentation on
Yeah.
the article. So if somebody, the article gets read, it's a presentation of the article. We could invite the requesters to go to town meeting and give their presentation.
With their own.
I think this goes back to the policy.
I still think that I'm hoping the select board will look into that and really review that with a floor ceiling for the money. And if they want to approve the 500s or whatever, but or put together a committee, but I'd like to see them go with you want $12,000 for visiting nurse or whatever. Each year you apply for that.
Yeah.
Not 2 years.
Yeah,
I
I don't disagree with
too
that.
much money's moving too fast nowadays. So it's like,
Yeah.
every year, come tell me what you need. If you're too busy to apply for it, we're too busy to give it to you. I'm sorry, but it's like,
I really like the idea of having a floor and a ceiling. And then having each year another round for new people to apply. And then.
it simplifies it for the voters. If I'm sitting there getting ready to vote, I know if it's like, oh, this is all a good thing, a visiting nurse or SAPA or this or that. If I approve this, it's not gonna go over $20,000 or whatever they said as a cap. It's like, it's not gonna be more than that. I don't have to worry about what we are paying from last year's vote.
And if we get 50,000 requests,
You
have
can,
25,000 available, we
you're not
we
obligated.
don't have to approve the entire event.
Right.
If the request is 5,000, we can approve 3,000.
3,000, 2,000, sure.
you solve a very problem, so I think his best recommendation, your recommendation, it's perfect for a policy review. It'll be fresh in our heads coming out of this process.
Yeah.
And the other thought I would have too is, once again, I think getting this started after this.
Yeah.
So
So
policy
until that-
updated. Go around.
Well,
All right.
But maybe for this
Yeah, we
year,
don't
at
have
least we
enough
can get
meetings
the
to change
500s The 2 500s
Yeah.
out there and, if.
But can I just clarify, do we have a motion on the floor?
No, this is discussion.
Okay,
Yeah.
because like you restated yours and then you're gonna put it in a note.
Yeah, it's just discussion. And for minutes, I think the key thing with minutes, like Robert's rule says, it's minutes, not seconds.
Okay,
The key is to capture the motions that were made, those who made them, and the stating of the motion. Okay, so no, we're good. We're about an hour into this, we kind of went towards the end, and I think getting back to do you want to go through, the different budgets, or do you want to let Ray or Chief Compo comment?
I want to make a quick statement. Caitlin and I do have to go to the Weathersfield Library here shortly. Their meeting has started, and we do their budget every year as well. And we're on their agenda to a FY27 library presentation. So within about 15 minutes, I'll be taking off.
Okay.
So any questions that you have for me related to the budget before I leave, if you have time to ask questions.
Yeah,
I have a question. I know we're not really talking about the capital plan today, but before you go, what confused me about the capital plan that you presented at the last meeting was I'm not seeing apples to apples. For instance, on the total annual capital budget for 20 years, you have that for option 1 and option 2, but not for option 3.
I do have it for option 3.
Is that in the new packet now?
Yeah, last page. Let me talk to it. And maybe I created this after.
No, I know about that one. It is,
Yeah. So that's the comparison right there. So that's apple for apples.
that last page,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the graphs.
are you?
Here, let me show you.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yep.
Because I read from the graphs.
Me too.
So, total annual capital budget. Okay, we have it for here, we have it for option 2. But I don't have it for 3, so I'm having, struggling with that, and the same thing with the annual, is the annual budget. You have it here for option 3, but not 1 and 2.
I can provide a graph of that, but ultimately, just real quick.
Yeah, this is really that, yeah.
So this is the apples to apples. So like option 1, the capital plan is going to cost the town 9.6 million. Option 2 is going to cost the town 12.4 million.
Yeah,
That's what borrow.
yeah, I just wanted to see how it went on through the years, but if it's a pain.
I can provide that for the public hearing.
Okay.
No, just take.
I think in the simplest form, this is just feedback. When you do your public hearing on the capital plan, I think the taxpayer is gonna have to be able to digest. How much more am I going to pay? How much more is the town's budget going to be? What is the delta in cost with a capital plan, without a capital plan? And
So without a capital plan, and this chart really simplifies it, because that is what it is. So option 1, the town will pay $9.6 million of the next 4 years for fire.
I don't think you're following.
Highways.
I'll try to read data. We're voting on next year's budget
Yes.
in March. If I vote on the capital plan, the way we have the articles written, do the articles break down the cost to the town for those to implement capital plans in this year's budget?
Yes.
See, that's the lowest common denominator for that voter is. I would say the average voter right now would vote no for capital plans because they're gonna be fearful of the education costs and this new cost. So it's an education process, and it's a sales process. You have to sell them on it. You have to show them how over 20 years, taking the bullet right now is gonna hurt. But here's how it's gonna save us.
And that's what we plan to do. And this has been presented with the select board meetings. We're gonna hold a public hearing. We're gonna have a presentation at town meeting. It's gonna be in the annual report that gets distributed to all residents in town. And it's on this one-page chart. This is. I mean, I provided those graphs, I don't know what more to do. To be able to break it down any further.
So, I think I asked, I think it would help, well, it's gonna be scary, so last meeting. You said for a $214,000 valued house, which is the average value in Weathersfield, it would go up for option one, $287 for that homeowner. And then I asked you, well, how much would it go up if the capital plan failed, or vacuuming? And you said $88.
Because we wouldn't be replacing. Fire and highway equipment,
Yeah,
residual values would decrease. We would pay more in repairs, we'd end up borrowing, and then when we did that, we would accumulate. Principal and interest payments. To purchase that equipment that needs to be replaced.
and I understand that, but that's, if you tell the tax owner 287
it's-
versus 88. That's a hard explanation. I don't know how.
And it's a difficult. And that's why I'm trying to show it.
Yeah,
Let's narrow it back down.
you're trying to show it over 20 years, so it looks better in the end.
Well, it's,
One of the things that made it very clear to me in talking with Brandon the other day is that without the capital plan, we're borrowing money and paying the bank's interest. With
Yes.
the capital plan, we're borrowing from ourselves and the banks are basically paying us. Did I get that right?
that's exactly correct, so we are.
And I think that's a very compelling argument, you know? Or it's not hard to swallow.
Ray has questions.
I'm
Thank you, Rita.
I'd state, this is just savings and interest over 20 years.
Yes,
The chart.
By having a reserve account and having the money put into that reserve to buy our own equipment instead of borrowing money. This has nothing to do with your maintenance costs being lower, your overtime costs going down because you don't have a truck breakdown. You know, you have a lot less risk. We can't show that because it's not a guaranteed savings. You can't. This year I paid $16,000 for one truck to get it ready for winter and $8,000 for another, and then $16,000 for a loader.
Yep.
So my budget for maintenance is like $70,000 right now. I have $5,000 left to get through to July.
I think
So-
part of this is, I think you gotta rename these graphs, so they're more accurately describe what they are.
Mhm.
These charts.
yeah, I plan to do that, I've just been.
Yeah.
And that's why I really wanna have a public hearing, it's all in like 2 weeks to prepare. But the chart at the bottom here, option one, which is the capital plan, and I'll relabel it. It'll be $510,000,
Mhm.
right? Option three, it will be $655,000. So by borrowing and continuing to do what we're currently doing, we're gonna spend an additional $140,000 on average. So yeah, maybe next year it'll be warm and fuzzy, but then the following year, it's gonna be with new principal and interest payments, because we're gonna have to take out loans to replace equipment.
So real quick, going back to the articles for the capital plan, I see 280, Article 10, 280 for the highway. Article 11, 100,000 for fire apparatus. What other capital plan
Maybe
articles?
it's
are there?
25, something like that for technology.
Article
Yeah,
13,
90.
9,500.
So I got 9,500, Article 13. So right now you're at 380 plus, you're at 389.5.
Yep.
389.5. Is there any other capital plan article that they'll be voting?
So then there's 20,000 for Parks and Recreation.
Question on Article
That's not
14.
capital plan.
So the other capital plan.
Yes. And I have to adjust this 510 chart because
Yeah.
we changed.
Yeah, because that's my question, is that?
You have highway, technology, those are the three capital plans.
I would better take out, but I also think that when you do the presentation,
Oh, that's average annual too. It's not even the first year.
I would just say a recommendation, and I'm not sure if we need a vote or not, but a recommendation would be to group your articles. So your core municipally required articles by statute, boom, those are right up front. And then you have a grouping for your capital plan, and then you have a grouping for your social services, and then whatever's left after that.
Just how you number them.
Yeah, because I didn't understand the Parks and Rec. Where did what was Parks and Rec's, what did they receive last year?
1,000.
How did it go from 1,000 to 20,000?
The Hoisington Fields master plan was approved, and then, they'd like to apply for grants to fund the Hoisington Field master plan. And they have an existing reserve account, I believe around 25,000. And then there's a Hoisington Field fund with around 56,000 in it. So I think the logic was, the board asked me to reach out to Mr. Rosenberg and get his input on what number you should be putting into the reserve fund for Parks and Recreation each year. And when I communicated with him, he recommended $20,000.
See, this is just my gut, but I like the rest of the boards. My gut is, this sounds a little like, it sounds like something that doesn't need to be an article. It sounds like there could be a more, moderate approach taken, where if funds are required during the course of the year to do grant writing or something like that ad hoc, I don't see why we have to jump their budget so much, and have the voters do an article. If there are things required from approved Hoisington Field plan, that should be incorporated into the budget versus an article. This sounds kind of like a wish list. I'm not trying to, and maybe I don't know all the context, but it seems to me like something that wouldn't have to be an article. I'm not sure if I'm missing something.
And I don't have enough information about how the number was accumulated at this point. I'm really focusing on the capital plan. So I'm not sure. I personally can't defend it right now because I don't know enough about it either. I know that we have a Hoisington Field master plan to renovate and redesign Hoisington Field. I know that we have 26,000 in reserves for Parks and Recreation. But there's another reserve fund for Hoisington Field. What I don't know is how much money we need for matching funds when we apply for a grant application. And I think that's what Brian Rosenberg did, was look at how much money we have, how much money we may apply for a grant. And then if it's a 20% match, it might be $100,000 that we need. I really didn't go through that with them. I just asked them for a number, and I've been pretty slammed with the budget and capital thing.
Okay, well, it sounds like Monday there will be some good discussions.
Mr. Chair.
That's the word.
About this 20,000, I thought that Brian had recommended $20,000 specifically for implementation of the Hoisington Field master plan. This is very broad. It sounds like it isn't directed for that, and the purpose was to demonstrate the future grant opportunities that the town is committed to implementing this plan. And this article makes it sound like it's anything the Parks and Recreation Commission wants to come up with, so future programs and playground maintenance. This was intended to be dedicated to implementation of that Hoisington Field.
Yeah, and I think with that clarification, and that's why these articles are provided in the draft form, so we can talk about them.
I just found this too broad. I remember the conversation with Brian, and he mentioned that the grant opportunities, it really is important to show that the town has skin in the game. And he thought that 20,000 would be sufficient for them. We're in a more favorable position to get a grant if the grant organization feels the town is really committed to this plan.
I see what you're saying. That's been the case with other things. In the
Yeah,
past.
and this article doesn't say that. This is from Parks and Recreation Commission.
So Article 14 is probably going to be, Ray, you had your hand up.
I'm not far from that. So, I'll put that hat on for a second.
Yeah.
The discussion was, we had public hearings on the master plan. The master plan was voted to pursue. It was in our town plan for years. We finally got it done. Next step is design. And the design is probably gonna be, roughly like 180 to 200,000 to get it all designed, blueprints on the table. Above what we've already paid for the master plan.
Okay.
To implement the master plan, to go to the next step, we have to start applying for funds. We know there's not a lot of money out there to get grants for design, but there is for build. And several times people brought up at meetings, it'd be nice if the town would start putting some money aside to build up for the design if we can't find a grant. So in the next 4 or 5 years, we'll have enough money built up to go ahead with the design on our own, and then we can really start applying for grants. It also demonstrates a commitment from the town to have a vote and say, we voted to implement this master plan, and look, we're trying to put some money away towards it.
So to draw a parallel, it's kind of like when you're doing the FEMA supported bridge repairs. You have a cost share. The matching grants are
Right.
85%. Okay, so I think Brandon sounds like he captured that. He captured the force comment from the committee. Any other comments on that? He sounds like they're gonna have to retool a little bit from Monday's presentation. But that rationale is more,
Right.
is more understandable.
Eventually, we'll have money to start paying for a share if we get a grant, or at least have enough money saved up to do our own blueprints.
Yeah, I think
And then-
with an article is in a short amount, obviously you do a presentation, but in a short amount of words. It's kind of like when we did the excavator.
Mhm.
People have to know what they're buying into.
Exactly.
Uh,
So that should just be for implementation, but I think the court hit it right on the head, and she's on the board, so I'm sure she'll bring that up Monday about how it's worded.
For Brandon, and the others, and for the committee,
Good work.
you've got a limited amount of time on.
It's
Do you
time's
have
up.
anything else?
Thank you, Brandon.
You're
No, we good, Chris, you good?
Good.
Good luck with those wild librarians.
Careful, they don't throw the book at you.
Yeah, that's right. For a video.
Brandon, anything else you can really add over tonight?
Nope, that's it. I think we have another meeting scheduled there, so we'll get some input from the side board on Monday.
Pete, Ray, you guys good?
That's a question for me.
I think whatever pops up, Monday will probably, I know I'll be listening Monday, I think. Anything for fire highway?
Do you have questions on our portion of capital plan as a budget? Here,
I did, well, I wrote. So in yours, you're doing the same thing, you're taking $40,000 from your fund. For the budget. Or sorry. And my question was.
So we're
which was
talking
the-
fund balance?
Yeah, fund
Use
balance,
of fund balance.
Yeah.
Yes, we're in the highway department. We're trying to wean off of using fund balance,
okay,
because right now it's nice that we have a $40,000 fund balance. If it happens next year and we don't have a fund balance to put 40 grand in there, we're already out of the gate 40,000 more than we were last year, just to stay even.
Mhm.
So fund balance isn't a beautiful thing to use. It's nice to use if you can sparingly. I'd much rather take my fund balance and put it in a reserve. Or offset what we're putting in for the reserve for the capital plan or whatever.
okay,
In the past, we made an extra payment on a grader. Things like that really help the budget. We've kind of tried to talk to the board over the last 6 years. I've been trying to teach the method of. It's great if you put 80 grand less in taxes by using the fund balance, but next year that payment's still due. And chances are it's gonna go up 1.5%, 2%. Anyway, plus the 80 grand that you no longer have to put into it. So that's just my only. Like a red blinking light in the back of my head all the time. But yes, we're putting in 40,000. It's gone way down. It used to be like 80 or 90, then it went down to 70, now it's at 40. So we're kind of like weaning off of doing that.
okay, thank you, yeah, that's
Are
the
you-
only thing I have.
From the highway standpoint, and then we go to fire, but are you, the draft budget which the town manager presented,
Mhm.
are you comfortable with these projections and increases? Is
For
there-
the next year's,
Yeah,
yes. There's things that are. I wish I could get more on some things, What I'm really excited about, and I'm gonna go off script here a little bit, if this capital plan gets approved. And I don't have surprise bills for fixing equipment that's really older, a lot older. I could really start investing on infrastructure there and not have a huge blip in the radar for taxes. Right now. It was really bad to get a $16,000 bill just to get a truck ready for winter. It kind of terrified me. Right now, my budget for maintenance is really tight. I have 5,000 left for the rest of the year, and I have 6 months left.
I think one of the strengths of getting the capital plan approved is that you have such a modest increase in your overall budget. And that's probably applies to the fire too, that's going to be something the voters will appreciate, because you're asking them to make a rather large investment. But then the second part, it goes back to what I told Brandon, which is voters have just got to be able to understand.
And
Okay, I'm spending this now. And I'm gonna spend this the next year, the following year, and then that's what the presentation just have to show them that over time, you'll have exceptional amount of savings.
Right, and one thing that traditionally happens in the budget, if I have a $30,000 truck payment. And that truck payment goes away at the end of 5 years. That 30,000 drop off the budget? No, they see that as a $30,000 way to offset insurance costs, or offset this cost, or offset that cost, but not have an increase in the budget. So you lose that 30,000 goes into wage increases or insurance increases or cost of culverts or whatever. And then you borrow another vehicle. Why another vehicle, you borrow the money, you get another $30,000 payment. It's not like it's that 30,000 magically there to pay for another payment. You know, this budget, this capital plan gets rid of that.
Yeah.
That money stays in there, goes right into the reserve, comes out, pays for the vehicle, and it stays steady. And it saves, that's, just to put it in perspective, that is only interest savings. That's not maintenance, that's not, the fact that if you buy a 7-year warranty and you trade it at 6 years, you have a 1-year warranty left on your vehicle, there's gonna be people that want to buy your vehicle used through your dealer, whoever you're trading with. And like West Windsor has people in line to buy their vehicles at 6 years old. And they get a premium because it's like, and they also get a premium on buying a vehicle because the company knows West Windsor is gonna buy a vehicle every 2 years. And they're gonna have that truck and they might have a leftover. They might save that for West Windsor. And you can save, 10,000 here, 15,000, 5,000, whatever it is, that savings is not even shown in this report. That you can't guarantee.
That's what I was trying to get from Brandon, because for option 3, you have,
Option 3 is doing it just the way we're doing it now.
yeah, so it
Like
has
arrow steel.
the expenses, so I would like to see. Like you're saying, I'd like the taxpayer to see how the expenses are gonna be lower overall with option 1 or 2, and I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to ask them that.
And usually a piece of equipment we buy in the highway department, you buy a $650,000 grader for 500,000. So the day you buy it, you have $150,000 worth of equity in it. If you trade it in 5 years, you buy a 7-year warranty. And you're getting back $10,000-15,000 more in trade-in at least. Because the warranty's still there. For a warranty, you paid maybe $2,000, $3,000 a year for. So I always look at, what's the warranty gonna cost and what's it gonna be worth at the end of the cycle. 5 years ago, we bought this grader. It did not pass because there's a lot of turmoil in town about putting it out to bid, and we don't need a new one, and you can leave it forever, and it missed by 18 votes. The very next year, it was off warranty. And we had about $23,000 in repairs for that vehicle, for that piece of equipment out of our budget. And we lost, I believe it ended up being $75,000 more to buy it the next year, and it passed by 100-something votes. But 18 votes, just people not understanding cost discount $75,000 plus the $23,000 in maintenance. So almost $100,000 gone that you're not going to get back.
Well, I think, well,
You're preaching to the choir. Yeah,
So-
no, I just remember what you said, and
so before we shift to fire, anything else for Ray?
No.
Okay, we do, so we'll shift to you, Chief. Are you comfortable with the budget as proposed?
This is a pretty conservative budget. And I think that there's a couple things on here. I'm also struggling with vehicle maintenance this year. I also have about $7,000 left to get through the rest of the year. So my budget's smaller, so a little bigger percentage, but we're definitely going to be over on vehicle maintenance. So that is an increase. There were a few decreases to make up for that. I do very much want the capital plan to pass, so there's less money being transferred to the dry hydrant reserve in this budget. I think that's revisit that in the future. Although I did talk to Brandon today, and that may be part of phase 2 of a capital plan. If we include dry hydrants and all of the other capital stuff. We mentioned fire equipment, highway equipment, and maybe we do dry hydrants as well. The other piece of this is we're still very much in transition. And I want a conservative budget until we really get landed and understand how operating goes. So next year we may revisit a few things and see where we want to try to improve any services in town, but.
I think that's the strongest story that you guys can tell when you're asking voters to support the capital plan, is that you've been conservative. You've demonstrated a lot of restraint on these budgets in the hopes that the capital plan will deliver, and then being able to tell that story about why that capital plan is important.
There's a lot of things we can't control. And how we purchase equipment and fund it, we can control and save money. I can't control fuel prices, I can't control how much storm damage there is or anything, but I can control that.
I see, Rika, did you want to chat?
Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm wishing that this conversation, that the whole community was tuned in, because what they get from the warrant and from town meeting tends to be very technical and sort of cut and dried. And this, I feel like this is the conversation they need to hear, in the same way that we're sort of figuring it out and getting to the point where we go, oh, got it. I got it now. Okay. And I'm wondering, would it make sense, for example, for the fire department to say, we're going to have an informational meeting about, that there's going to be, one of the things in the warrant will be a capital fund for, the fire department, for the town. Pick all of them, and that body would say, let's do a public information night, come ask your questions, come learn in detail, and why we're proposing. I think the more people hear about the benefits of a capital plan, or even that there will be discussion of a capital plan, the less of a choke point it'll be come town meeting. It'll be a much more familiar concept. It could be things, we don't have a newspaper here, so you can't do it via letters to the editor, really. But, maybe on Villages of, it shows up a couple of times in discussion, or I don't know, Front Porch Forum, or somehow, that talk it up so that people are familiar with the concept and feel less threatened by it.
What did Brandon, at the start of the meeting, I think Brandon said he told us he was going to be recommending to you and the other select board members on Monday to do a capital plan public hearing.
Yes, in January.
In January. So our next meeting, so what I see happening, I like your idea. And I think that public hearing is the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I also think you got to roll out communication some. I did a very short note today, just letting everybody know, hey, this is a reminder of the message the town manager sent. We're meeting tonight to discuss it and provide recommendations Monday to the select board. You're welcome to public meetings, you can zoom in. But
There you go, one.
yeah,
Terrific.
so there we go.
It worked.
But
I was going to zoom in anyway.
So if he does, I think if you guys agree to schedule a public hearing on the capital plan, I think we have to communicate, that why, far and wide. And then town meeting day is not a contentious,
Well, I think also because you can talk about how it plays out in particulars, as Ray just did with the grader. Give a concrete example of, here's a situation where you can see the difference it makes.
Chief, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I support getting the message out far and wide. I would be hesitant to do it separate from the town and select board. I think historically, when the fire department has done that, which it has done, the message was not always received in the proper manner. So I would be happy to attend any meetings that the select board holds on this matter to help support it. I also think clear, consistent messages across the board is what gets through the voters. So if the budget committee aligns with the fire department, aligns with the highway department, aligns with the select board,
So
there's a lot more trust in
Yeah.
what we're trying to convey to the voters.
And I think that was a good example of that, Chief, was last
I
year,
think
right?
we're aligned with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
was good.
I think it's, if you're really in fear that this could get voted down, then, basically I would say you approach it like a campaign. It's like, okay, we're all on the same page. We know what the message is we want to convey, and we just need to persuade as many people, talk to as many people, get the word out there. And
And I think, you had a good point earlier too, Rico, which is for me as a voter, when I think of myself as a voter and I think of my tax bill, I'm gonna be looking at what this school education costs increase is gonna impact me, and then what capital plan is gonna impact me, and does that make sense? Can I afford that? Do I want to vote yes or no? So education's key.
well, and the education agenda, budget and all of that is going to be presented before ours.
Mhm. So, folks, anything else for fire or highway?
Yeah.
We covered a lot in 90 minutes. Any other business?
And I'm sorry, for some reason, I thought police was still under fire.
And
And it's not, it's under general. I was just gonna ask why they got
So-
such a high increase.
so last year,
6%.
the town voted, the select board voted to contract with the
Yeah.
Windsor Sheriff's Department. And I'm not sure if one of the select board members would be able to.
But the
articulate that.
contract went up 6%, looked like to me.
Yeah,
Was that part of that hiring?
I could unofficially speak to that,
Okay,
okay,
if you'd like.
the discussion.
The sheriff's department is being much more comprehensive than I think we had historically, and the sheriff's department based their pricing off of historical call data over the course of several years. So the sheriff's department took the information they had and kind of made a guess at what they were going to provide for services based on the number of hours that were being provided previously. And what I'll say from my perspective is we have a comprehensive police department is what we have. Whatever, it doesn't matter what time it is, and it doesn't matter what the call is, the sheriff gets resources there. Sometimes half a dozen or 10 officers if needed to take care of a situation. So Brandon could tell you how many hours they're going over what they contracted. They've had to try to cut back some hours here and there from what I understand, but he's providing a much greater service than I think we expected.
I think Monday, this is a proposed budget, so I think Monday the select board will be. But I don't know if they'll be voting Monday, but they'll certainly be hearing it Monday. I'm sorry, Beth, had her hand up first.
so did he have to renegotiate the contract or was it?
I don't know those dynamics.
Yeah.
Well, I just know that in conversations with the sheriff. I mean, he's taken on more than what I think he initially thought, and he's honoring that. I mean, he's doing a lot for us from the fire department perspective. I definitely don't want to go backwards.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't wait at 3 o'clock in the morning for the state police to show up for an untimely or anything like, or a domestic or whatever. They're usually right there. I've noticed.
Yeah, no, they seem to be, even though they almost ran me over a couple months ago, but okay.
Chris, you.
Don't stand in the road. Thank you. Yeah,
It's
some
out
of
of
that,
nowhere.
some of that, I think they put in for some extra hours to patrol on that, and it's like, the sheriff's department is doing a fabulous job. I mean, I don't have a problem with their budget. The only thing I saw was 6%. It's like, what happened? Why did we go up 6?
I think
But you explain that of what was proposed, what we thought we we're getting into. We have more hours involved and all that. The job they're doing is outstanding. So I don't think anybody in town would holler about, we gotta pay more money for what we're getting. But when you just looking at the budget, you see, wait a minute, we went up 6%. We just got on board. You'd mentioned it in talks or whatever. We thought it was gonna be this. We've needed more
And I think some of the limitations were, I mean. One significant difference is Chief Daniels was. Trying to be an administrative chief and have his hours count towards. Patrol. Whereas Sheriff Palmer can't actually figure out what his hours are for the town. He's taking phone calls, he's doing all these things administratively. And all of the hours for his deputies are still counted.
I think,
So-
I think a good way to
Getting involved is
pull all this together is, I think, would we have unanimous consent that, our recommendation would be the town manager, provide an explanation of the 6% increase in policing? Is that just, it's just a simple, it's just simple feedback?
I believe the sheriff is coming
Oh, sure. Oh, okay.
On Monday.
Oh, then it's a non-issue.
Yeah, I believe he is.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just, I think we'll just capture in my notes here that, that question came up. And the sheriff and town manager can address it.
I definitely feel like we're getting exactly what we're paying for plus more.
Plus more.
Yes. Every dollar is very well spent.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
the dollar figure of it. And like I said, just looking at, 6% increase, and
Little-
that's it.
Little things, like if the police cruiser broke down before, there was no patrol, there's no cruiser to drive in. Now they have somebody else backfill, or they have another cruiser they jump in. You don't lose time. I mean, that's huge.
So,
Speaking of things like that, to kind of jump back to the fire stuff real quick, Mr. Compa, how are the stipends working out for everybody? I know it's not very much for all of them. I know they appreciate it.
The stipend.
Yeah, the stipends.
there's some.
I noticed it went up a little bit. My question is that enough of an increase? I know everybody at the fire department puts they're all into it. Is it covering all the bases? Are they all happy with it?
So again, I'm gonna say that we're in transition and I asked Brandon to kind of leave it alone for now.
Mhm.
I have started tracking my hours very specifically because I think we need to have a good understanding of what we're spending, right? The other officers are gonna do the same. But again, a lot of my hours currently are related to transition and some of that should fall off once we're. We are operating as one, but there's still a lot of transition work
Mhm.
being done. Once that's done, we'll have a better idea. So next year, we may be looking to revisit it. I'm not sure, but I don't wanna ask for a lot more without having good data to support it. We have seen really good response rates. We have not paid out any stipends to the firefighters, so I don't think it necessarily feels real to them yet.
Oh,
So we're gonna do it twice a year.
Oh,
So,
okay.
because it is work for everybody to tabulate and whatnot, so. January 1st or the first week of January, I will figure out. How many calls there were for the first 6 months and who went to how many and.
Okay.
Suzanne will process payroll and then we'll do it again for the second 6 months of the year. The officers are receiving their stipends throughout the year because it's a set amount, it's a little bit more.
So I guess for the committee, we've heard from Brandon, we've heard from fire, we've heard from highway and our guests tonight. I'm feeling that we're all supportive of the overall budget. Is that the feeling of everyone else?
Yes, yeah,
So-
all my questions were answered.
So what did we say? We're the 3.91% overall increase in this draft budget as of today. So would someone like to make a motion that we provide a recommendation to the select board that we are supportive of the proposed budget as received today overall?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Aye. Okay, so on Monday, we had a question from Rika.
I just want, in case Brandon didn't say this before I tuned in our conversation the other day, he mentioned that, the town managers in the area get together periodically and compare notes and so on and so forth. And that Weathersfield is one of, if not the strongest and most solid financially. It's right there at the top of the heap. And I think that's, we do a good job running this town. And we really do watch out for the taxpayers. I'm impressed.
Thank you, Rika. It's
So
well
thank
said.
you.
I think we all share the same sentiment. I think we're all grateful that we've had a chance to go through this and sit here with you face to face.
Yeah.
So any other business?
No, should I make a motion to adjourn?
Okay, Shane's motion to adjourn, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You're adjourned, and the time is 7:40. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Forrest.
I got a cutoff at 8 o'clock. I'm home cleaning, I get no food.
I'm looking forward to seeing the house so great.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah, you were hard. Oh, and our next meeting is.
Oh, it's,
I think I have it in my.
it's right here in the minutes,
It's
on
on
Yeah.
January, yeah.
6 p.m.
Okay.
January 6th, I need to look at it myself.